Hey ladies, it's Leanne here, back for another Q&A from our lovely tribe. And in this video, I want to answer Lynn Barker's question. And she essentially asks, why when I'm stressed and worried do I eat my feelings? Okay, so this is such a common one that I struggled with for so many years. And to be honest, it wasn't until I got to the root of this problem for me personally that it wasn't until I got to this point that I was able to actually overcome my struggles with food. Because the truth is, we all know what we're supposed to eat, right? We all know what healthy looks like for us. But it's when we get into threat, when we get stressed, that our old fired and wired habits start kicking in, and that's when we feel like we lose control, like we're not the one running the show anymore, right? So it wasn't until I addressed my experiences with emotional eating, stress eating, mindless eating, that I was able to actually really influence all of my eating on the whole level. Okay, so here's what I would say. There's a couple parts to it, right? When we're talking about our stress eating, our emotional eating, or mindless eating kicking in, okay, I want to just kind of give you permission to give yourself some compassion, because oftentimes this isn't a matter of you, actually I'm going to go blanket statement and say all the time, this isn't a matter of your mindset being weak-willed or lacking motivation. It's really a brain set thing going on. And what I mean here is there's a particular part of the brain called the ACC, the anterior cingulate cortex, which you can remember it by thinking of the words acceptance, connection, and care, because this is the part of our brain where we actually experience acceptance, connection, and care, whether it's from ourselves or whether it's from other people. So think about, social belonging, social connection. On the flip side, this is where loneliness and isolation occurs on a brain level, okay? Oftentimes when we are, so stress eating and then emotional eating, they're kind of two different parts of it, but they're both one and the same, right? Either way, you're not in your human rational brain to make decisions of, oh, this is healthy or that's not healthy or that kind of thing, right? You're in your mammal brain. That ACC is kicking in saying, I want acceptance, I want connection, I want care, okay? And so oftentimes if we fired and wired the habit of emotional eating instead of getting that acceptance, connection, and care, it has become our brain set, okay? So this, Dax has actually posted a video, the Running to Mommy video. Our final ingredients video for Eat, Play, Love, Live actually talks about the ACC as well. So feel free to go back and check out those videos as well. But remember, if you are emotionally eating, okay, just start asking yourself, where am I feeling disconnected? Where am I lonely? Where do I feel kind of socially isolated or just not connected? Where do I feel a little bit disconnected? Where do I feel like nobody gets me or I'm misunderstood? Where am I bored and lonely and I'm eating instead? So really, I guarantee if you isolate the emotional eating side of things, you'll find where you feel a little bit socially disconnected, okay? So that's one side of things. The other side of things is when we're eating our feelings, chances are we're not feeling our feelings, okay? A lot of us, we try to be tough or we try to be strong, and we essentially override what we're actually experiencing, right? We never take a moment to say, wow, I'm feeling lonely right now, or wow, I'm feeling pissed off right now, or wow, I'm feeling really misunderstood, or I'm feeling jealous, or I'm feeling excited, elated. Who knows why we eat, right? So oftentimes you might find you're just skipping over feeling your feelings. You haven't necessarily given yourself permission to feel whatever it is you're feeling, right? I call something that I kind of nicknamed for myself along the way, but also the kind of woman that I just tended to attract was the tough gal, right? The tough gal, what I would say about myself is, for the longest time, I didn't want anybody to see my vulnerable side, right? So I had to show the world how tough I was, how smart I was, how funny I was, how strong I was. Anything from keep the world from seeing who I really was, that I was just human, that I had sadness, and that I had anger, and that I had frustration, and that I wasn't perfect, right? And so where I'm going with this is if you tend to experience symptoms of being a tough gal and you don't want to express your feelings, maybe it makes you feel weak or vulnerable, chances are you're gonna find something to substitute instead of feeling your feelings, right? And again, there's a bit of a crossover here. So a lot of times those feelings that we're feeling tend to connect with that social isolation or lack of connection or that kind of loneliness that we might be experiencing. So there's a hybrid of the two where A, we're not feeling feeling our feelings, and B, we're feeling socially disconnected, and then in turn we eat, right? So part of it is that, and part of it is just, again, we become better at whatever we practice, right? And so chances are we're not practicing saying, hey, I'm lonely right now. What would fill that void? Or, hey, I'm feeling frustrated right now. What would fill that void? If we practice just kind of skipping over it and eating instead, we're gonna further ingrain firing and wiring of that habit and that pattern into our mind, okay? So where do you go from here? How do you take this information and turn it into implementation, okay? Well, again, it becomes this whole mindful eating side of things, right? If you look at the recipe for Eat and Play and Love and Live In, it's mindfulness. Why am I eating, okay? So one of the things I ask myself, and trust me, like as little as 6 months ago, I found myself in my fridge, like eating chips and guacamole from my fridge, right? And I remember saying, how the hell did this happen? I don't even remember going to the fridge, right? It was so mindless. It's still ingrained in me. Every once in a while it happens if I'm not being mindful, right? So the question becomes, why am I eating? So right then and there, I asked myself, why am I eating? Right? And the question and the answer, the two, choices that I come from are, is it because I require it or is it because I desire it, right? And the answer was neither. I wasn't even hungry, right? And so immediately that awareness came, and I said to myself, Leanne, silly goose, because it's better than saying you freaking idiot, right? Leanne, silly goose, right? I talk to myself like my child sometimes because I deserve compassion and love just like the next person. You're not even hungry. You must have mindfully gone to the fridge and gotten these, right? And so I created a pattern interrupt. I stopped and I put it back in, right? And so I became aware of my lack of awareness, right? So if all you do is start asking yourself, even just one of the awarenesses, which is, why am I eating? Is it because I require it or is it because I desire it, right? That in itself can give you a little bit of influence over the coming actions that may or may not have transpired if you were not mindful. So that's just a little peek inside of this whole emotional eating conversation, because there's a lot of layers to it. It's different for every single person, but hopefully that gives you and whoever's watching this some insight, because I know we all have and do and probably will struggle with the emotional eating side of things. So hope this helps. See you soon.